How does he do it? How does he do it? The wall of the Wasatch once again.
Performances throughout 90 minutes.
Beckerman sizzles through into the net. Into the net. Beckerman has given RSL their second.
Drives in. Ricketts changed his mind. Off the post and in. What a terrific goal. That's the goal of the week.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first real episode of RSL Ranks, my new show that I'm starting. In case this is your first time here, I'm Ellis Iverson, and this is just like a show where we rank many different RSL-related things. So today what I'm going to be doing is ranking every player on the RSL roster by how many minutes I think they'll play this season. So this isn't just starts, this isn't, it could be substitute minutes, and this is all competitions. I just like to note before I get started that I found all the information and data that I'm going to share in this video from FB Reference. You can find their website. All right, now what I'm thinking with this is that at the end of the season, we will go back and see how many of these I got right, how close I was to predicting how many minutes everyone played this season. The way I've done this is I've sort of separated the players into tiers, and then I have ranked them in those tiers. So there is an actual 1 through 30 or whatever it is ranking, but there's also tiers of how much I think these players will play. This tier right here is locked in starters. So all of these players I think will be playing pretty much every game barring injury or being unavailable. So these are the locked in starters. Let's get into it. Starting at the number 1 spot, I have gone with Zach McMath. Now, I thought maybe last season he was going to lose his spot to Gavin Beavers, who I really like. But he stood on his head, especially towards the end of last season. He was, one of the best goalkeepers in the league, I would say. So I don't see him really losing his spot. He's only 32, which is really not that old for a goalkeeper. I do want Gavin Beavers to take over that starting spot eventually. But I still think this entire year, Zach McMath probably has a spot in the bag. I would like to see maybe Beavers play in some cup games. But unless McMath is injured, I don't think he's going to be a question mark on the team sheet. All right, next up, I have Chicho Arango in number 2 spot. He came in middle of last season, so he only played 758 minutes, and he also had an injury, which kept him out of a couple of games. But this season, I think he will be playing basically every game. He's our star player. He's our captain. He's our leader. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be playing essentially every single game. I don't think there should really be any arguments with this. The only reason why he would be below McMath is because, maybe we'll have to sub him out a couple of games, and that won't really be happening with McMath because he's a goalkeeper. All right, now in the number 3 spot, still in our locked-in starters tier, I've gone with Justin Glad. Now, he actually led the team in minutes last year with 2,714, which, I think he'll have a similar year. I know he was definitely shaky last season, but I still think he's our best center back. I'm pretty sure he's our vice captain as well. He's a very important player for us. And, even if we bought a new center back, which I think maybe could happen, I want it to happen, I still think he starts next to that new center back. So Justin Glad, he's a locked-in starter in the number 3 spot. All right, now rounding out the list of our locked-in starters, I've got Diego Luna. Now, last season, he only played 1,197 minutes because, Pablo wasn't playing him at the start of the season, which I think was very frustrating for a lot of the fans, including myself. But I think this season, you can tell that Pablo trusts him. The only reason why maybe I put him below players like McMath, Chicho, and Glad is because there is the possibility he gets sold. I don't think he will get sold in the middle of the season this summer, but I put him there just to be safe. And also, I would say that we have lots of other options in that position that I think can do well. So I've gone with him in the number 4 spot. He's going to be playing all of our important matches. I feel pretty confident in saying that. All right, now the next tier that I have here, these are the starters. So they should be starting every game. I could see a situation where maybe they're not playing a game here or there, but they should still be playing every single game. First in this list, I've got Brian Vera. I think, this current roster that we have right now Glad and Vera, that is 100% our center back partnership. No arguments there. I think he might be a better left back, but I don't want to take any chances starting Marcelo Silva or Eric Holt next to Justin Glad as much as I love them both. But I think Vera will be starting in that left center back role most of this season. He's not in the locked in starters because I think we still could buy a center back at some point in this season. I thought it was, one of our biggest priorities that we needed to make in the offseason. And it doesn't look like we're getting one in this window. However, it's still open, so there's still a possibility. But Brian Vera, I think I would like to see him as sort of an inverted left back. Pablo has been talking a lot about how we're going to play with one inverted fullback and then one fullback, bolting up the sideline, bolting up the wing. And I think Vera would be the perfect candidate to be the inverted fullback because he's a center back or a fullback. And I think on that left side, if we've got a right back bolting up the wing, I think he would be a great candidate for it. So that's just one take that I have on Vera, but he is definitely going to be playing a lot of minutes this season. All right, now next after Brian Vera, I have to put Emeka Eneli. I mean, he's one of my favorite players, one of many fans' favorite players. What a surprise that he's even, in the team, let alone this high up the list. He wasn't on our roster this time last year. So, I mean, last season he only played 1,324 minutes, but now we've seen enough of him that he can play a right back, he can play defensive midfield. I think pretty much every game he should be starting there. The only reason why he isn't higher is because he's not fully proven. I think he's mostly proven himself, but I wouldn't say he's proven himself as much as, say, Justin Glad or Chicho. So that's why he is 6th in the list. All right, now another undoubted starter in my eye. I've got Brian Ojeda. He played quite a bit last year, just over 2,000 minutes. So I think he should be the starter. I would love to see him next to Eneli in that 6th position this year. Obviously, we'll come to him, but Pablo Ruiz, very sad. He suffered a season-ending injury not too long ago. So I think with that, Ojeda and Eneli is my preferred duo with the Sixes. We've got Nelson Palacio as well, who I don't think is a bad option, but I don't think Ojeda is going to be losing his spot this season. All right, now one more starter that we've got. It's a new signing, Matt Crooks, the tree. I think he will be one of our starters this season. We haven't seen a ton of him yet, but from what I've seen, I have absolutely loved. I am obsessed with this guy. I think Matt Crooks, he's a DP now as well. He should be starting at the 10 most of the time this season. I thought maybe we would have Luna starting at the 10 this season, but it looks like it's going to be Crooks with Luna playing as one of the 10s when we have the ball, but a left wing in defense. So I think Matt Crooks, he's going to be a definite starter, 6'4". I already love him so much. I think he's going to be an instant fan favorite. All right, now the last player in this tier of starters, I've gone with Andres Gomez. I think he's got the right wing spot pretty much locked up. He played 1,399 minutes last year. I don't think I would have called him a starter last year, but he was subbing in at least basically every game, so he got quite a few minutes. But I think this season, we've elevated him to a young designated player spot. He should be the starter. We spent $4 million on him, I believe. So I think Andres Gomez, I think he's going to have a special season this year. All right, now my third tier here, I've called it rotation. Now, I think these players will be playing a few games here or there. I don't think they're bad players. I think they're players that are good enough MLS starters. I just don't think they are really above the average. So the first player I've gone with is Alexandros Katranis, the left back. Now, I haven't watched him play, so he's one of the hardest players in this list for me to rank. I'm just going safe here by putting him at the top of rotation. He could lock up that left back spot this season, and I'm hoping he does. But I don't know. He could be any sort of wild card. He might need to adjust to the league. We've seen that with many different players. So Alexandros Katranis, that's all I can really say is he's a new signing and I've never watched him play before. All right, now just underneath Alexandros Katranis, I've gone with Andrew Brody. Now he played a lot of minutes last year. He played 2,265, which that's starting pretty much every game. I'm not convinced by Andrew Brody. I know Pablo Mastroeni loves him. He does a lot of things that really bug me. I think he's fine. I think he has a high ceiling. I think he can dribble really well in tight spaces. Defensively, I don't trust him at all, and he gives a lot of poor giveaways. So Andrew Brody, I'm not super high on him right now, as you can probably tell, but I still think Pablo will play him a fair amount. I just could see him losing his starting role to Katranis, Hidalgo, Eneli, Oviedo, some of these other great fullback options that we have. All right, now next in this tier is Bodie Hidalgo. Now, you might start thinking this is like basically the fullback section, because I think the fullback positions are a big unknown for us. I'm not quite sure who's going to be playing where, but Bodie Hidalgo, I would have had him much lower in this list if not for the first couple of games this season. He has impressed me so much. I think, he could be a player that we produce and we sell for a lot of money. I know RSL, we need to sell more of our academy products. We produce a lot of products, but not all of them are really being sold to Europe. And I would love to see Hidalgo take that path. I think he's been a great right back. I was a little nervous from him converting from right winger last season to right back. But he played 1,180 minutes, so I think he'll at least be playing a couple of the games. All right, now next up, I've put Anderson Julio. I think he probably will not be starting most games, but he will be subbing in basically every game in my eyes. He's an incredible super sub to have off the bench. He's the first backup to Chicho at that striker position, and we've seen him play winger one or two times this season as well. So I think he's a very quick player to have in behind to run up against higher defenses. I really like Anderson Julio, and I think he's definitely going to be coming off the bench many times this season. All right, now after Anderson Julio, I've put Nelson Palacio. He came in the middle of last season. He's a defensive midfielder. I think he could lock up a starting spot. He's obviously adjusting from the Colombian League to MLS. That is a very hard adjustment, and I think we've seen him start to make that adjustment, especially in the playoff series against Houston last year. So Nelson Palacio, I think he can be a really great player. We've seen very small glimpses of it. I haven't seen anything that I've absolutely loved, but I don't mind Nelson Palacio. All right, now after Palacio, this is the last one that I have in my rotation tier. I put Fidel Barajas. Now, Fidel, new signing, really excited about him. I'm really not sure how much he's going to play. He's only 17 years old, and I think he's a really great player. We've already seen him being subbed in basically every game this season, so that's why I've got him in this list. I'm just really not quite sure. There's a bit of unknown with Fidel Barajas, but I want to see a lot of him this season. All right, now the fourth tier that I've gone with limited minutes is what I'm calling it. I just think these players, they're sort of like they can play if we need them to. I'm not thrilled to see them playing though. So first I've got Michael Chang. I know Pablo Mastroeni does love him a lot. I think he's an incredible crosser. Like he might be the best crosser in this team. And we saw this a few times last season. He can take long throw-ins, which I just love, especially having Matty Crooks up there. Michael Chang has a few skills that I absolutely love. He is in his 30s at this point, though, like 32, 33. So he could be slowing down a bit this season, and we have a lot of other options ahead of him. Last season, he did play 1,015 minutes. So, he's tried and trusted. I think we basically know what we're going to get from him, though. All right, now the next player I've gone with is the Costa Rican Brian Oviedo. Now, Brian Oviedo, I think he's a solid player. I think he might be taking more of a limited role this season than he did last season. He played 1,792 minutes last season, which is actually more than I thought he would have. But I'm pretty sure he's third on the depth chart behind Catranis and Brody at left back. So Brian Oviedo, I think he's a solid player, and I don't mind him, but he could be slowing down this season. I think this could be his last year with RSL. All right, now next up, this is where I have put Gavin Beavers. So I love Gavin Beavers. I thought he actually looked all right when he played last season, and I do believe that he'll be playing in our cup matches, so that will be Open Cup and Leagues Cup, basically. He played 585 minutes last season, so he's our first backup to Zach McMath. I think he's an up-and-comer, and I hope he does play some games this season, but I don't see him taking that starting role. All right, now the next player that I got here, you might say this is a bit of a surprise. I've put Marcelo Silva. Last season, he played 1,436 minutes, which is a solid amount, but you can really see signs of him slowing down as a player. And his decision making at times isn't great. I think Brian Vera and Justin Glad are the locked in center back duo. We do need to bring in more center back depth. I think Marcelo Silva being the number one backup, I don't think he's quite good enough for that. I think he's great to have around the team. He's a veteran, a captain, a leader. Marcelo Silva, I love him, but I don't think we're going to see him playing too much this season. All right, now the last player in this category is a bit of a sadder one. I've put Pablo Ruiz here. Now, we all know that his season is over. He's had a season-ending injury. He did play 170 minutes so far this season, though, so that should put him above some of the other guys in the other tiers, I think. That's about 2.5 games. So Pablo Ruiz, very sad. I mean, I love him as a player. He scores some incredible goals, just integral to this team. Luckily, with his injury, I think we've adapted more to being able to function without him. I think last season we relied on him so much more than we do now. This new playing style, I think we have less long balls coming from that defensive midfielder. And we kind of saw that with him playing at the 10. We were trying other things, more tighter passes. And I think Ruiz, it's very sad that he's not going to be playing this season, but this is where I've got him in the list. All right, now the next tier we have is maybe a game or two. These are break glass in case of emergency type players. I'm really hoping we don't really see too much of them, except for a few of the younger ones, maybe a couple of experience minutes here or there. So first I've gone with Eric Holt. I'm trying to judge if he's good or not. It's been a while, obviously, since we saw him. He only played 54 minutes last year. He had that shoulder injury that kept him out for a really long time. So Eric Holt, I think he should be maybe like the fifth choice at center back. I'm hoping we just make one more signing at center back. That's what I'm banking this on. So that's where I've got Eric Holt. Now, after him, I've got Elijah Paul. I think Elijah Paul, he did okay on loan last season. He didn't play great for us in the 112 minutes that he did play. I'm hoping we don't see too much of him. I think, once again, he's a break glass in case of emergency type player. All right, now next after Elijah Paul, I've got Xavier Gozo. He's an exciting prospect. He got his debut last season, played 7 minutes. I think he could be someone that we try to integrate into the team. Maybe this is a bit low from me, but I think he probably won't be playing too much this season. He hasn't made the bench yet, which I think is a sign to me that he's not supposed to play too much. Now, just below Xavier Gozo, I've put Axel Kai. Now, he signed when he was 14 years old, which is just crazy, and everyone's been pretty excited about him. He was missing for a lot of last season. He didn't play even for the Monarchs too much. He got 7 minutes. He did play his debut. Hopefully, he can, get his feet under him and start playing, build himself a career. He's about at that age where he's probably ready, but I haven't seen anything that makes me think Pablo's going to play him very much this season. All right, now after Axel Kai, this is where I put Matthew Bell. He is obviously a draftee, new signing this season. I really don't know very much on Matthew Bell. He hasn't made the bench yet, which that's all I'm banking this on, is that he hasn't made the bench. Pablo might not trust him too much. I don't think he's going to play very many minutes this season, so that's where I've got Matthew Bell. All right, now rounding out the maybe a game or two tier, I've got Bertrand Jacqueson. He played 358 minutes last year. He looked okay, but the second half of the season especially, he rarely played at all. I didn't mind seeing him play, but I think he's a Monarchs player at this point. I don't see him playing very much at all. All right, now this final tier, I just labeled it 0 minutes. I'm pretty sure none of these players are going to play a single minute this season. I have ranked them by the likelihood, but this is a lot of unknown. I'm not really sure where they're going to go. So I'm just going to read off this list because there's not much to say about a lot of these players. So I've got Tommy Silva, Zach Farnsworth, Jude Wellings, Luca Moisa, Tomas Gomez, Luis Rivera, and Kevin Bonilla. Now, Kevin Bonilla has had a season-ending injury, so obviously he's going to get 0 minutes. That's why I placed him at the bottom. And then Tommy Silva, he's a new signing. We don't know much to expect from him. Zach Farnsworth has struggled with injuries. He's never played for us, I don't think. Jude Wellings, I mean, he's an exciting player, but he hasn't really played for RSL. Maybe he'll play for the Monarchs this year. Luca Moisa, we just signed him. He's very young. I don't see him playing at all this season. Tomas Gomez, he's our third choice keeper, so in case we need him, he's there, but he hasn't played yet for RSL. Luis Rivera, I haven't heard great things about how well he plays. Obviously, he hasn't made a single appearance for RSL. Maybe the Monarchs this year for Luis Rivera. And then, I've got Kevin Bonilla at the bottom, which I already talked about him. All right, well, that just about wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, leave in the comments what you'd like to see from this channel. I'm open to, honestly, anything. And if you are listening on a podcasting platform, make sure to rate and review. It really helps the show grow. Anyways, thank you everyone for watching this episode of RSL Ranks, and I will see you on the next one.